Christmas. And this year, we're pitting two unlikely foes, Aldi and Harrods, against each other. To ask whether it's better to save the pennies on a cheap and cheerful Christmas at Aldi or splash the cash on some luxury at Harrods. And for those leaning towards the latter, they may be surprised to know that this lavish store actually started from rather humble beginnings. Charles Harrod first established a small store here in Knightsbridge in 1849. 2 years later, it welcomed a wave of new customers as 6 million people flocked to the Great Exhibition at nearby Hyde Park.
Harrods knew about the building of the Great Exhibition because people had talked about it for some years, and he connected the two things together and saw that it would help him.
Building on the momentum, the store went from strength to strength. But it was a fateful Christmas in the early 1880s that would prove one of the most defining moments in the store's history.
1883 was going to be a boom year for them. They were expecting this to be their best Christmas ever, and they'd stocked the shop accordingly.
But then disaster struck. On Thursday the 6th of December, the store caught fire.
Harrods was still lit by gaslight then, and there were gaslights in the windows. And one theory was that a curtain in the window with the wind had blown into the gaslight and started the fire.
Whatever the cause, the effect was catastrophic.
And really, by the early hours of the morning, the whole shop was a ruin.
But the company was determined to turn this nightmare before Christmas into a golden opportunity.
So he wrote this letter to customers to put them at ease. They would fulfill all Christmas orders within 2 or 3 days if they gave those days of grace. And that Christmas, they sent out every single order that was done. They restocked in order to supply people who came into the shop, and they had their best Christmas ever.
Harrods' devotion to its customers that Christmas helped strengthen its reputation and popularity. It soon rebuilt on a much larger scale and with even grander ambitions. And Harrods' monument to indulgence still stands untouched today, almost 130 years later. 1 million square feet of retail space, 330 departments, and 12,000 staff, each committed to delivering a Christmas experience like no other. And on Christmas Eve, the entire store is put to the ultimate test. At precisely 3:59 p.m. They call it the panic hour.
In many ways, the super rich aren't that different to you and I. They also leave their Christmas shopping to the last minute.
And for many, that means the final few moments of the trading day. Doors close at 5 p.m. and it's one of the most profitable hours in the entire year.
It is shutting at that time. There's no extra. It is going to close. And so many people would literally leave it to the last minute.
And that even includes the famous.
I remember this little fella come up to me and was like, quick, Louis Vuitton, where is it? And it was Paul Daniels, the magician. And I said, oh, getting a present for Debbie, are you? Straight through there on your left. And I sent it to Louis Vuitton, and hopefully she got her present.
And with the clock ticking, the pressure is on.
In the store, the old hands who've been at Harrods for many years would always look forward to and rub their hands in anticipation of panic hour, because we could sell them anything in that hour. The money that changed hands was immense.
Some people wouldn't think twice about going on a Christmas shopping spending spree in Harrods that costs more than the average British house.
And with customers like that, only the very highest standards will do, both inside and out.
Their windows are always exceptional. They just go to town with their windows every time.
Their world-famous creative window displays have become an annual tradition. And shoppers come from far and wide to see them.
If you're coming into town just to see the Christmas windows, you want to be wowed.
And this December is no exception, with the entire storefront dedicated to the most luxurious of brands.
This year, of course, Harrods is celebrating 70 years of Dior, and their windows are reflecting that. And by showcasing through the windows, Dior's sales will go up this Christmas, and so will Harrods.
But in terms of Christmas marketing, that's about as far as Harrods seem to go.
They don't appear to have any Christmas advertising at the moment. They're less present, they're less visible. Therefore, are they more desirable? Are they almost saying to the public, we don't need to advertise, we're Harrods?
German-owned Aldi, on the other hand, take a very different approach to their marketing. And when it comes to Christmas, they're not afraid to battle with the British big guns, using some rather risky tactics.
I would like to leave this city.
The one that everyone remembers is from 2015. John Lewis produced this marvellous extravaganza. It was very sentimental and mushy. Real feel-good factor. It was about a little girl looking at a lonely man on the moon. Everybody loved it. It gave everyone that lovely warm glow. Aldi said, we'd like a piece of that. How do we do that?
I think we were looking at that, and I think the nation felt that it was a bit sad he was left on the moon.
And Aldi did their own parody version, in which they pointed out that everything that was in that advert you could buy cheaper at Aldi, including the telescope.
I like this one, and I like this one.
We've known for quite some time that coming into Christmas, Aldi will be selling telescopes.
I'm over the moon with this one.
So whilst John Lewis was attempting to make people shed tears, Aldi was attempting to make people laugh. I know which one I prefer at Christmas.
Aldi now look like the cheeky upstart. Now, it's a very British position to take, and is mocking the aspirations of John Lewis adverts.
Our parody, and yes, we did sell a few telescopes as well.
But in 2016, Aldi looked to do something original, introducing its very own festive mascot.
Are you okay? I think I just peed myself.
Aldi went for funny, so they came up with Kevin the Carrot.
It felt true to what Aldi's about. He might not cost a lot of money, but he's a really good carrot.
He's an ugly old carrot. He's an underdog, and the British love the underdog.
I think that's quite innovative, that they've not just followed what everybody else is doing and said, you know what, we understand this British consumer now. You like a little bit of slapstick comedy, let's give it to you.
Kevin the Carrot remains a central part of the 2022 Christmas ad, and this year he's creating quite a stir.
Come on, everybody!
What is interesting about the Christmas advert that Aldi have put out this year is how it's a bit of a parody on the classic Christmas movie Home Alone. It starts with the family going on holiday to Paris. They all get on the plane, just like the theme of Home Alone. Kevin's missing. Where can he be? He's home alone. He's defeating intruders and doing all kinds of shindigs to get away from them. And it's all very funny. It's memorable. And it showcases all the Aldi product, again, laid out on that Christmas dinner table.
But this year, Aldi has pushed the boundaries more than ever before, and in a way Harrods would surely find vulgar.
Aldi's advert has got a very cheeky part to it, you could say, when Kevin fails to become the nose of the snowman and hits him squarely in the midriff.
No. Or a bit lower.
Santa, thank goodness you're here.
It's certainly not something I've ever seen on a Christmas advert before, but to be fair, I mean, it makes it memorable.
But not all customers have seen the funny side.
They got a fair bit of negative feedback on social media from some, but for others, they found it greatly entertaining. It's always the way when you push the boundaries with these things.
But despite the backlash from some, Kevin remains very much a star in his own right, and his rise to fame has been somewhat meteoric.
It's a bit wacky, but it captured the imagination. They were even able to sell these Kevin carrots in the middle aisle.
It was incredible. I've never seen anything like it. There was queues around the car park.
We never intended that we would end up creating a character that everyone would then want to buy, and boy, it caught fire.
But Aldi aren't the only ones to recognise the money-earning potential of a good mascot. In fact, decades before Kevin was even a twinkle in Aldi advertisers' eyes, Harrods had their legendary Christmas bear.
Harrods is, of course, famous for selling what becomes one of the world's most famous bears. In 1921, a mother called Daphne Milne buys a Harrods bear for her infant son, Christopher Robin. And of course, that bear goes on to become Winnie the Pooh.
And when Egyptian-born businessman Mohammed Al-Fayed bought the store in 1985, he wanted to create an iconic bear of his own, and a year later introduced a Christmas version to his store. Priced at $14.95, it quickly became a hit.
A lot of people would come in specifically to buy a bear, nothing else, just to buy a bear in a green Harrods plastic bag, and that was it, job done. Thank you very much.
To add to their allure, Harrods began to date stamp each one.
The Christmas bear has become a collector's item, and people are very proud. They say they've had one every year it's been going.
The store even gave them names, and in a nod to its rich British history, very traditional ones.
Alfie, Eddie, James, Gertie, Merlin, they're all very British names. They're all now quite posh British names, but there you are, Harrods' dream of Christmas.
And 2022 is no exception.
This year's Harrods Christmas bear is called Louis. You have to ask yourself, is that a nod to the royal connection?
And 35 years on, the Christmas bear is still a top seller. And while you can buy a 32cm one for £35, you can buy its bigger cousin for £1,900. If you have the room, that is. Coming up, Aldi takes on Harrods again. As our panel taste test, champagne.
So do you think that number 2 is the most expensive?
I don't know, I think it might
Not
be middle.
necessarily,
Yeah.
because I don't necessarily think that my palate's that sophisticated.
And how will both retailers fare this year in what could be one of the toughest Decembers on record?
Christmas has always been a battleground for retailers, but this year it is tougher than ever.